Thank you all for making sure you're muted. Welcome. I'm Kelly Mahler, occupational therapist, and I'll let Caroline and Rachel, do you just want to introduce yourselves really quickly before we start with questions?
Yeah, Caroline, go for it.
I'm Caroline, and I just smiled because I see my friend is in the chat. That makes me happy. Oh, and I just see there's Cass's beautiful face. I am Caroline Gaddy, and I am. Yes, it is going to be recorded, Sheila, to answer your question. Kelly just said that. I'm Caroline Gaddy. I am a neuroqueer person, and I am a mom, and I am an SLP, and I am an AAC specialist and advocate, and here to talk about interoception and Gestalt language processing. And there's my friend Rachel. Go, Rachel.
Hello. Hi everyone. I'm Rachel. I am an SLP and I'm also autistic, and I'm excited to talk to people about what's been going on with Gestalt language processing and interoception, and the my work like supporting Caroline and all of this. And so it's cool. Thank you for coming, everyone, and the people that are viewing this later. Thank you for also doing that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So if everyone can just make sure you're on mute for now. As we go through today, if you have questions, we're going to be together for like the next 25 minutes or so. If you want to put your questions in the chat, Caroline and Rachel have been very generous to offer to answer your questions for the next few minutes about interoception and Gestalt language processing. When you both approached me about doing a course on this topic, I didn't realize what response we would get from the community. And there has been such a tremendous response and interest in this topic. And so we'll keep the chat open. And if you have any questions, put them in there, but we do have a couple that came in. Would you like me to start by answering any questions, or do you have something you'd rather say first about this topic?
No, you could go with the question, unless Rachel has something you wanted to say.
Go for the
and help them get back to freeze up.
Okay.
During this.
If everyone could just check to make sure you're muted, that would be great. Thank you. Okay, so one of the questions we have is, what is your top tip, which I know is really hard to probably narrow down, but what is a tip that you have for us when supporting interoception in Gestalt language processors?
I haven't answers because this question was kind of given in advance and I had a little time to think about it. I can share.
You go first.
Mine. Okay. A top tip, but like a thing that really comes to mind when I'm I guess first diving into this with my clients is trying to get a read on has the client have my often autistic clients have they ever felt the feeling that we're all wanting more calm, more times of peace, or times of genuine joy and excitement. And has that been felt before? And even if it has,
that she would describe is he is a young
lost track of where it was. And if it has been felt, is there any sort of a connection to that period? Because I feel like emotions and sensations can often be so big that even you can like logically know like, okay, I'm gonna feel a different feeling. It'll happen, but I have no connection to what that other thing even feels like.
Yeah.
So I guess my being like mindful that like the emotions, feelings, sensations that you might be like trying to investigate, maybe the reason that they have a hard time describing it is because they haven't felt it or can't remember ever feeling it.
Relating to this wasn't what I was going to say, but you're sparking something for me here, Rachel, that like this is the danger of labeling a feeling. So I would use an example that's given a lot, like when people will say like, don't tell little girls that a little boy being mean to them is just because he has like a crush on you, right? And for somebody who is a Gestalt processor, that kind of label can be like even more detrimental and confusing, because then I'm going, oh, this feeling is a crush. This feeling is a crush. This feeling is a crush. Okay. And I've taken this whole.
I would contact the accessibility office.
I would contact the accessibility office too. I agree with that.
Submitted this request.
Yep. Accessibility is very important. I second that. Contact them. Everybody. Duly noted. But I think that like when we label those things, and then that person kicks that Gestalt and they go with it and they're like, okay, this is what this is. This is what this is. This is what this is. Then we have unintentionally tied, because we go with this whole, right? We've unintentionally tied this to this sensation that is incorrect and wrong. And then we end up with what can be like a very dangerous situation for people. Oh, Cass, I'm sorry. Like, this can be this is something, particularly when we talk about people who might be Gestalt language processors who are part-time AAC users, who are minimally speaking, who are regularly, frequently non-speaking, then we can end up with these boundary violations, these lack of consent issues, these things, because the person does not know. And they think, oh, this is what's, this is what the feeling, they told me this was the feeling. And then we unintentionally create something that can be a really negative repeating pattern. And like Rachel said, then you go your life thinking this is the feeling, and then you have the other feeling maybe, and you're like, what? That was not the feeling. Nobody told me. That was not it. And we can set up for something really, really dangerous. But my thought before Rachel made my brain tickle and think more on that is really, Kelly, what you said in your post yesterday, and I thought was so good, is it really, I think some of the best things that we can do is kind of a version of checking our bias, like asking myself, could I be the communication breakdown as the evaluator, as the therapist, as the educator, as the parent? Is it possible that I am the communication breakdown? It is. Like, that always has to be on the table. It cannot ever be off the table. So that when the person is saying something to you, like if you're just, maybe we can rule some things out, and they're saying, oh, this is my experience, and we're saying, I don't understand this, or maybe they're not having this feeling, or we're going through this kind of clinically and deciding these things. It always has to be on the table. I may be misinterpreting it, or I may not understand it. And I think we should go into everything like that.
All right. That's so well said. There's a couple questions coming in about what you're talking about in the chat. So do you want to go there and take a gander at those questions?
I'm looking right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a good question.
Mhm.
Beth, yes, adults can make mistakes. I make them regularly. But this one, I like this from Sarah. And Sarah, I was just info dumping. Some of you may have seen this very ridiculous write-up from Rutgers that said that the headline was like, autistic people can have more complicated feelings. And my response to that was, this just in, disabled people are people. More at 11. But like, the study though that really poor write-up is on is really a valuable study. It is really good and talks, Sarah, about this kind of piece about how autistic people may describe our feelings more richly, kind of like we say in this course, that we may use different kinds of words. We may be tying it to other sensations and these things, and that this can then be misunderstood and misidentified by non-autistic people. So I think the biggest thing really to that question, going through layer after layer is a word, is staying open-minded, staying present with them as like we're going through the layers, and just to and by present I mean just staying a supportive, open, affirming presence for them to go through those layers. And that's whatever position you're in. I'm not talking about that necessarily being like a counselor or trying to help somebody work through their trauma, but we're whether we like it or not, we're all doing that. If we're an adult with a kid, we're helping them. If they are traumatized, that's part of our job, is we're helping them work through that trauma. And at every moment, we can either be an affirming or an unaffirming presence. And as we start to find those feelings and feel those things, and I can say this as an adult, I won't get into personal stuff, but like I can say as an adult doing this work, and realizing kind of how little I know, that there are layers of like finding things that can be very dysregulating and panic inducing. Because I'm like, what is this? It's like Jack Skelly. What's this? What's this? What's this? Like, it's like more feelings. What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? And that can be really distressing. But for me, having friends, having other people that I can go, what is this? And somebody could just be a good calming presence and go, yes, this is happening. That is okay. So the more that we can be that person and be open and supportive and just keep honoring what they are telling us, I think that provides a solid foundation for anything else that maybe, I say this to Sarah's question because you're an SLP and maybe getting into some of the nitty gritty of that in terms of the trauma and the counseling, that's outside of our scope. But like, we can still be a solid presence. We can still be affirming and listening and open to what they're saying.
Sorry.
So Caroline, I want to like yes and like an improv,
yes,
like they do like the yes.
I believe in yes and. It's my approach, you know it.
Yes. And so the things that you're saying, especially like, I mean, the trauma piece, which, we could decide to get into or not, get into further or not get into further, is really relevant. Really, it can be relevant at any age. When I'm looking at this question and I'm thinking, okay, what about the kids that they're not in that, like maybe they have some anxiety, but like they're not they haven't been utterly let down by the systems yet. Maybe they won't be. Hopefully they won't be. When I'm and these kids generally tend to be, I would say, in elementary or school or younger, not necessarily, not all the time. There's some really happy, autistic older kids, but the way, and we talk about in this in the course, like kind of bridging gestalts. I'm a big fan of hearing the language that kids are kind of currently using, and it might be the exact single emotion word, but it might be something else. It might be like that's just ridiculous. It might be like ew, gross. It might be like a range of like sounds and noises. And so to both add build on where they're currently how they're currently expressing it, to both make that more easily understood by others, and perhaps add some nuance to it. Something like a we call it, I guess, like a bridge type of a gestalt. So like if a kid's, for example, is saying like, well, this is just ridiculous, to mean that they're like goodness, like they're kind of they've just had it. I might say, well, you've just had it now. And so now the kid might resonate with that and say, well, I've just had it. And then you could expand upon that more, like, I'm up to here, and then eventually can get to that single word, or what it often is a combination of those single words. I like with I'm a big fan of kind of explicitly saying to kids and non-kids that like you can have two emotions at one time, or more than one emotion at
I'm a
one
big
time.
fan of that. Yes.
Everyone's nodding. Yeah. And those emotions can be like one and then the other. They could be on top of each other at the same time. They can be you start out and then you think a little and then there's another one. There's all different ways that they can be that are so outside of just the like, I am sad, I am happy, I am angry, I am relaxed, I am whatever that may be. Yeah, that's what I have to say.
I agree. That's honestly, it's part of why I often make the metaphor about Gestalt experience about inside out marbles, because that's like the whole point, is that like it can change and evolve, and the emotion can be multiple things, and it can be a complicated little ball. I completely agree, Rachel. No shock there.
Other questions?
I love these good examples, and these examples are so very similar to some that we gave in the course about how little GLPs are labeling things to express their internal experience or their external experience, and that they do it in these really unique ways. Mm-hmm. Like, or no, I just said this actually at a conversation with Marge Blanc, where I was talking about, I don't know where it is. I can't remember. I don't know if it's like the Wikipedia page. It's somewhere really generic that's like the description of what is autism. And one of the things they talk about is that autistic people may express things in like unique ways. And the example was that instead of saying it was raining, they said like a cloud was crying. And I remember at the time, this was before I was diagnosed, I knew my son was autistic, but I remember thinking at the time, seeing this, and I was like, isn't that just poetry? Like, what? We're calling this disorder? Like, don't we exalt people for using, like, I don't understand this delineation at all. And feeling like, well, yeah, crowd, like when I read it, being like, well, That makes total. What are you talking about? Yeah, Cloud is crying. What do you mean? And you know, I don't know, maybe that was a sign I should have taken. It made a lot more sense to me than not. But I see all these things though, these things that people are saying in the chat, and that's what it makes me think of, is like all of these ways that are not, and that can be easier to see when it's when it's closer, like the one about like sweaty for wetting the bed, or like when it's closer, that can be easier to see. But sometimes it is not close, and then we can be left in kind of the water air. That's beautiful.
There's some questions about
I'm looking.
that.
Yeah, I was just scrolling through the questions
in the chat.
here, Kelly.
Like people are they're all in agreement with staying open and, you know, avoiding like labeling. But then what do you do? How do you understand the Gestalt? How do you like, you know, how do you unpack all of that and find their meaning?
I think here, well, Rachel, do you want to go first?
I mean, my answer to like how do we find the meaning, how do we go about it is like over time, like building a sense of clinical intuition. I mean, with like, for instance, okay, I had a kid that I was seeing 3-year-old, and he went to a actually like his preschool was like pretty like good, all things considering. Like he was doing pretty well, but and I was seeing him at home, and he really likes like messy play with like pretending to cook, and so we were like putting all of mom's spices all over like everything and like bowls and mixing anyway, and he's like, I'm so sad. And I'm just like, oh, okay, that doesn't seem right. He's saying that. He's like, we're not forcing him to stay there. Like that, we're like really truly like following his lead. I'm sure that mom would prefer that we don't, you know, get maple syrup and more honey and peanut butter and spices and cumin and put that in the oven. Like I'm sure we're really truly following his lead, and he said that. And so I'm like, ding ding, okay, well, like, was there a time that he was feeling like he was feeling in that interaction, he felt that way like at school, and where he was like maybe excited about something, maybe goodness, it might have been nearing the end of the session, so I'm like all right, let's put this in the oven. I don't think I said like it's nearing. I would have made that connection of like, oh, he's sad because I'm gonna have to go soon. It wasn't that, but something about how he felt, he connected it to a label that someone had put on him, and
yeah,
and then and now he's saying that he's sad, and the way that I addressed it was by not saying no, you're not sad. I didn't do that. I goodness, what did I do? This was a few years ago. I might have just been like, oh, there's a lot of stuff here. Oh boy, like, oh, that we got to keep on. We're keeping on cooking. We're doing some fun times here. Like I was trying to give gestalts that had like a positive spirit to them, to see if he imitated or could latch onto it, and like it pretty quickly got corrected naturally. Like he stopped. Like I never heard him again label like a really positive seeming experience as sad. He had other ways to talk about that. And actually now he is saying like he had kind of had a hard school year last year. So he was like, Mom, I'm sad. And now we believe it. Now we believe like the literal meaning of it. But anyway, that was just an example of all of these factors in mind that are going into helping out, this specific kid. So it's like very client-centered and clinical intuition and going off of your past clinical experiences. And yeah.
I want to try here. There are a few really good questions. I'm kind of going to try to answer all of them with one base go and then see if I can get into some more specifically. But like how can we help GLPs in understanding their own cues? And then how can we teach little ones emotions in a way that is meaningful? And then also this other great question about working with older people, this was talking about working in an adult home. And that is a lot of what I did was work with teens and things and young adults. So the thing that I would say, the number one best thing anybody can do is accept and receive. It's like playing ball. They've said something and you are going to receive it. This is yes, and we're going to receive it. Oh, thank you. You have shared something with me. Maybe I don't know what it is. You can be honest about that too. That's allowed. You're allowed to be like, what? To infinity and beyond. Well, that sounds fun. I don't know what that means, but that seems like a fun way to go. Okay, sure, right? We're accepting it. We are accepting what they have sent us. So then we're immediately setting this foundation of, I hear you, which I believe Kelly and Rachel both know, I believe are the three most important words in the English language. I hear you. I am listening. I am hearing what you are saying. I am receiving what you are putting out, right? It tells them we're laying this foundation that I hear you, that what you say has meaning. I care about what you have to say. And I believe in investing my time and energy and trying to understand it. And then we start to lay that foundation over and over again. And that makes something that is safer. And that lets somebody's nervous system start to come down a little bit. And once that can start to happen, we can then start to eliminate some of the static loud noise that is happening all the time with the nervous system that is constantly firing pew, 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 pew. Then we can start to maybe get a little more clear on the interoception work and on what the feeling exactly is. So the first best thing I think we can do in any of those situations is receiving what they say, taking it, validating it, honoring it to the best of your ability, and acknowledging your limitations, acknowledging that you could be the breakdown. Out loud. Oh, did I not get it right? I'm sorry. That's totally cool. That's totally cool thing. And guess what? If you do it in an exciting enough way, the GLP may latch on to that too. And then you've taught them something that's also a really great skill. So that can be really helpful for all situations. When somebody, if we're talking about people who are older, who have had lack of communication access, who they have experienced this their entire lives, there could be a lot more time spent there in just validating and saying, I am listening, and then commenting. Gosh, it looks like you're feeling upset. Are you feeling upset? Is that what is happening right now? I want to help, these kind of things that you can echo and mirror back. And then one of the other best things we can do is offer other ways outside of oral speech. So We can do a gesture. We could do like an interpretive dance. We could use signs. We could use communication boards. We could use pictures. We could use memes. We could use GIFs. We could use songs. Whatever works. That we don't want it to be something reliant upon oral speech, which is maybe something that could be intermittent and is maybe something that is not going to be very dependable and is maybe something that is hard, is using cognitive load for that person to try and channel that energy to now focus on making all the motor movements with their mouth. And maybe it's easier to do things. Yes, YouTube is yes, related to like all of those things. You look for those other ways, and using those other ways can then also help you understand what they're trying to communicate. So like if you start to try out some of these other things and they really seem drawn, you know, if so this is a joke thing, but it's a reasonable example. So I have a potty mouth like nobody's business, but I also spent most of my life working with children, so I'm very good at code switching, and so I have other words that I will say, and I like to choose words that are still fun to say and enjoyable. So I'll say "farfignugan," so I'll say that like really great, "farfignugan," right? And that kind of makes me laugh, and it's, you know, harmless and whatever, right? So, but if you had a GLP who was saying like "farfignugan" and you're going, "Have fun," what are you talking about? What are we going on here? But if they're doing that and we start trying art, or we are trying what gesture, you're doing this when you're and you do that with them in your body and you go, gosh, that looks like this, or this looks like this character, right? You're showing them a YouTube, or you're showing them a GIF, or you're using art, or you're using body sensation, that if they start to latch on to one of those things, that can also then help you as the outside observer start to understand and identify what that is that they are feeling, and then help guide them through the curriculum and using some of the adaptations that Rachel and I suggest. But the curriculum itself is a beautiful and excellent foundation and tool to be using to help go through those things.
Caroline, you're just like your description of like that was great. Like
yeah,
it was fantastic.
Thank you.
I was like nodding.
I'm
like passionately.
yes, you are describing the kind of overall sort of steps, but also keeping in mind the kind of nuances that can kind of show up here. Great, beautiful.
And this is a very good question here, Lynette. Is modeling one of the strategies for exploring body signals for GLP clients? I give visual and verbal choices with body signal exploring activities. However, I feel that modeling might be teaching neurotypical senses. I want to say, first, yes, modeling absolutely can be a strategy. And two, beautiful, bravo, good awareness of checking your bias and understanding that maybe that sensation for you is different for them. We always have to be aware of that. And I think that when we're thinking about modeling for GLPs, we're still kind of going with this kind of yes and kind of a strategy. And that instead of just offering a single word like, oh, angry, angry, oh, angry, you know, and modeling that, which I'm used to doing in AAC, like just modeling that single word, we want to get something a little bit more exciting, you know, like take what they are doing, join with that, like, I feel angry, right? Or whatever it is. I hate it, right? Give them something that's worth latching on to, that expresses the experience. Something that I have said, I know Rachel and I have talked about this, and I've seen this from other Gestalt language processors, that like a single word, it's not it. That's not what I'm trying to tell you. I want you to have the whole, I need you to understand the urgency, the bigness of this feeling that is in my body, and just saying like angry is like, It's like a wet noodle. It's like that doesn't it didn't communicate it. That didn't tell you. I have to be like, I'm dying. Right? My daughter is very big into saying I'm dying right now, which I keep trying to be like, okay, we have to let's shape. But you know what happened is we had a really direct conversation, because we can do that. And my family, that is something we have access to doing at my kids' ages and stuff. We had a very direct conversation the other day. And this was actually a really beautiful example. I was like, sweetheart, you know what? I know that's how it feels. I know it. But if we say that out loud in other places, that could cause some confusion for some people. So we need to think about another way how we can express that. And so then my son, who's 15, was like, what about suffering? And she's like, I'm suffering. And I was like, yeah, there we go. I'm suffering. And so we could have, so what I want to give you permission to is, you can have those conversations, and you can have them probably a lot more times than you think, if you're willing to sit openly and really receive whatever the person is giving you, and be an open, honest communicator. We don't have to be the perfect experts. It's okay to model like, I'm not getting it, because you're also modeling, I'm really trying, and I really care about what you have to say, and I'm here with you. I'm staying here in this moment, and I want to know. Rachel, what you got? I see it. I see the look.
Well, what I have to say is, I guess, is more not that much, but I guess I'll say a little bit. That I mean, when, like, Lynette, this is a really great question and like concern. Also, like, I share that concern, like, with myself too. I need to be careful that I'm not imposing
absolutely
my own sensory experience on any of my clients. And so, you know, it's something to be mindful of, and I think that speaks to how important it is for there to be kind of a variety of options that each in their own way can be kind of resonant.
Yes.
And if you know, for example, like if I'm working with a client who like their auditory experience is just like really different than mine by a lot. And I guess I'm thinking of like maybe older, like teens or adults. I'm like, well, is it kind of like this sort of a thing, like this, or maybe is this sort of, is it kind of like this other thing, or
Yeah.
like what about this clip right here on YouTube? Like, is it kind of like like how that guy's feeling there? Oh, okay. Or yeah, so I you don't have to feel that sensation the exact same way as others, and like to be ordered to like help them on their journey. You just need to be aware, and it sounds like you're aware that like we are all different.
Yeah.
And being aware that we are all different allows you to reach out to different types of ways of being that the client might resonate with.
100%.
I think that is like so beautifully said, both of you, because I mean, that's just like, I think one of the coolest things I've learned about in this interoception journey is just how different we all are. And I think that we need to be more vocal about that and very explicit about that and very, very out loud with our curiosity. Like, this is what I'm experiencing, but your experience is likely different. And I'm really into trying to figure out your experience. I don't know, when someone's curious about how my body feels, that feels so good and validating.
I think Kelly, that's it. I think that's more than half the battle, I think, is really just being there and not dismissing and going, oh, that's how it gosh, that's not how it feels for me. Thanks for letting me know. I just had this conversation with my daughter, and this is the thing. Can she always explain these things to me in like super clear, coherent way? No, she cannot. But because we've created a space where I say that's allowed and she trusts that, we just had like a communication breakdown and she got like kind of sad, and I was like, what's going on? Why are you feeling sad? And she said, well, when you said your room, it was sounded loud and that makes me feel bad. And I was like, oh, I see, because she has a gestalt that her room is levels of explosion. It is but like, so she's used to hearing that, and that is shame, like that is bad, right? And that wasn't what I was trying to do, but she told me this makes me feel, oh. And so then what I did is I said, oh, thank you for telling me that. I really thank you for letting mommy know so I could do a better job. Thank you. Let me try again. And so I was like, what I want to do is get this done so that we could put this table you're really excited about up in your room. What do you think? And she's like, that's better. Okay. But the thing is, she's 7 now and she has a lot more language. So I know that these you could, but I've had these kind of conversations with people who are non-speaking, and we've just done it in hand squeezes and looks and hugs and touches and stims. So like, these things don't have to be my perfect conversation that goes exactly like this. It can be broken. It can be searching. It can be figuring it out. But the fact that you as the adult are there and saying, I care, I am going to keep doing this with you. I am a person in a position of power, which makes me very uncomfortable. That was a very alarming thing for me in grad school when they're like, you're the person in power because you're holding the, they're coming to you
right
for
county road.
Let's turn right. Follow the navigation system, Amanda. Don't be like me. Don't be like me and decide I can do it better myself.
I have it on mute.
You're all good. You are all good. Don't you even worry. Don't you even worry.
And I just jumped in. My thing took longer, and I was like, I missed all of it.
Well, it's gonna be recorded. Don't you even worry about it. You stay safe on the road. That's the most important thing. But we can have these conversations, and kind of getting to this question about art that Rachel and I both talked about, like, you can have these conversations in so many ways. Communication is connection. You can connect and converse. I have entire conversations with people in GIFs. I've had entire conversations with people in memes. I've had entire conversations with people in just echolalic vocalizations. Did we feel connected? Yes. Did it relay meaning? Yes. Did we understand what each other had to say? Sometimes, yeah, totally. Sometimes maybe a little less, but with as much accuracy as I might have gotten with words. And then I was meeting them where they were, and we were having that moment. Establishing that means so much.
All right. Well, I want to be mindful of Caroline and Rachel of your time. I know we promised 30 minutes. We went a little over, but I'll turn it over to you for any final final words if you have any. But I just want to thank everyone for joining. And I do want to encourage people to check out your new course on interoception and Gestalt language processing, because there's like 7 hours of content. So you only scratched the surface a little bit with this discussion here today. And I am not exaggerating when I took pages and pages of notes while I watched your course. I learned so much. And I just want to thank both of you for starting this conversation publicly and like really helping us, because I was really lost on how to do this, and I have a long way to go in learning on how to support my GLPs with their inner fields. But I just am so grateful to both of you and for the work that you do. So thank you, and I'll turn things over to both of you in case you have anything you'd like to say before we log off.
Rachel, do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Oh, I mean, like, I know that, Caroline and I like co-taught this course, but also like we're on the like this journey too. Like we're on this journey like
Yes.
with Kelly, with all of you watching along the journey with our clients, and so I really view it as like I have a leg up because I'm a Gestalt language processor. So I kind of when I first started, working with Kelly's interoception curriculum years ago, I'm like, oh, okay, these words here, I'm gonna have to say something different to kind of get this across here. But like that was like we're all like in this together, not to sound cheesy, but also to sound cheesy, because there's a time and place for like authentic cheesiness and shared joy and respect. And yeah, okay, your turn, Caroline.
Yeah. I guess he's going to come out soon.
The these have been very entertaining. Everybody this has provided me with great joy, honestly. We are all in this together. I could not agree more. Every time I give a presentation, I'm always telling people, I'm not a prescriptivist. I'm the wrong person to come to for that. I'm not here to tell you what to do. What I'm here to do is to join you on the journey, and let's talk about it. Like, let's have the discussion. I want you to have more tools for your toolbox. I want you to leave anything I do with at least one idea that you could do tomorrow. Like, I want you to be able to leave and go into a session and go, oh, here's this thing, whether it's a concept, whether it's activity, whatever it is. Like, it's not useful for me if it's not applicable. And I feel really grateful to Rachel for, having we joke that Rachel is the raccoon. She has the raccoon energy. Rachel and I have the same birthday, and Rachel and I, so in that sense we're both Leos. And so Rachel gets an idea, and she's still young, so it really is helpful because she gets an idea and gets so excited, and I also get excited, but I have no energy left. And Rachel is still younger and still has some.
I mean, I get impulsive. And
yes.
I've been working on practicing some restraint, and thinking things through. Like, y'all don't know that this what we created has been like kind of a few years in the making. But in your raccoon energy, you came to me and went, hey, I feel like this is something we both talk about. Let's work on this. And that I'm really grateful for. I'm really grateful that Kelly does this work and I've benefited from it personally. I feel very passionate about it. And I also really adore Marge Blanc, who is one of the pioneers about talking about Gestalt language processing, and getting to do something that really was kind of a love letter to these people who I appreciate so much, who I think could do such important things for autistic people. It has a lot of meaning
for me, and I will tell all of you, just because I have the opportunity to say it now, you know, I know the cost of this course isn't cheap. Like, this isn't nothing. I know that. I've had plenty of times, most times in my life, because I am an autistic person, I've been underemployed for most of my life and overeducated. And I know most of the time that kind of a cost is not something that's accessible to me. And I want you to know that, like literally I could get groceries because you all got this course. Like, that you valued it to invest that money has such what Rachel and I, when we saw like the numbers of people, we both had like this like Gestalt sob fest together of like, oh, so many levels of meaning here. And I just since I'm here and can say it, I just really want to express my profound gratitude to all of you. Whether you're just joining now, whether you already invested in the course, whether you think you're going to invest in the course, whether you're just willing to start talking about it at all, like it really does. It makes such a difference. It really makes a difference. I can't, you know, sometimes I get accused of maybe being overly passionate. I know, it's shocking. But but the thing is, I care a lot about inclusivity. I care a lot about social justice. I care a lot about disability rights, and when I see other people joining and trying to learn and wanting to do it too, it is absolutely useful for non-speaking kids. I just saw that chat. I just need to say that it absolutely 100% is. And there may be some more coming on that. Stay tuned. Wink, wink. Didn't hear from me. But I just want to express my sincere, deep, profound gratitude, really, to all of you trying. I know it's not easy. It's not easy for me. I'm learning with you. I make mistakes too. And it means a lot.
Right, well, there's lots of people saying thank you in the chat, and I hope you never lose your passion, both of you. And thank you everyone for joining us. And hopefully you'll hear more from us soon. So I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting. Bye, everyone.